here today with Rajeev Chandrasekharan, CIO of Verizon Business Markets, and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Since we're here at Digital Transformation North America, we want to talk a little bit about the changes that Verizon is going through in terms of transformation. What is driving the changes in the way that you operate?
So first of all, thank you for having me. Glad to be here in Dallas at TM Forum. So there's lots of different reasons why one needs to change. So first of all, there's a lot of technology that's around you, right? So there are newer ways of doing things. That creates opportunity for you to change what you're doing and how you're doing it. But the more important reason probably is the expectations of the customer. The customers are expanding things to be simple, on demand, they want more value. So it's a mobile and a consumer-driven economy where people want options and choices. So if you don't provide it to them, then they're going to find another way of trying to fulfill those needs. So between the customer needs, between the technology changes, and the fact that there's a lot more opportunity, the value is moving up the chain. We have connectivity, we have access, there are more solutions and capabilities that are possible, especially with 5G and other new technologies coming out. So all of those things put together create a perfect opportunity for you to make a change about what you're really doing and how to go to market.
So what kinds of new skills do you need, and how are you looking to improve your skill resources? Insourcing, outsourcing, partnerships, acquisition, going to open source?
So all of them, right? So because the rate of change, there were times when two people gave you all the technology in the world and gave you 3 pieces of software and you could do it. You don't know where a good idea comes from, you don't know where good technology comes from these days. So reskilling your employees is one way of doing it. Hiring people from externally from a talent perspective is another way of doing it. Partnerships, vendors, right? Every one of these things. We're also doing crowdsourcing agreements, right, with people so that we can look at potential ways of trying to do it. The whole idea is to create a fungible model based on technology, not to have people who only do one thing for a long period of time, so they can move around. That creates innovation as well, right? So that openness to hiring the right talent and skills of all possible diverse backgrounds, that is essentially what is going to give you the bang for the buck, because you're looking to solve a very complex problem. It's not very simple right now, right? There's too many varying, the customer expectations, the product options, the technology variations. So you need the diversity. So everything and more.
So what are the biggest challenges in doing this? I mean, is it changing culture? Is it the relationship with vendors? It's very different. What are the biggest roadblocks?
So there's quite a few things. If you take the technology side of the house alone, you may start moving from a build to a buy model. So you may be doing more system integration. It's a very big change for people who have just built systems all along. From a culture perspective, when you're trying to do things differently, there's always a pushback. I keep saying that it's easy to do something that's been never done before with respect to doing something that has been done before, because there's a blueprint and people expect you to follow the norm. There are also essential challenges of if you're going to reinvent yourself and positioning yourself in the market, your systems digitally differently, you need your customers to accept that as well. So there's a few different things here, but the culture is the strongest one. Because if you have the right people who believe in the mission and they can keep the organization focused, you can attempt to make all the other changes.
Yeah, it would seem difficult though to get that to trickle down. So how important is that in terms of leadership?
Oh, it's you cannot have enough of that, right? You need, so what some of the things that we try to do is we have leadership at the top supportive of what we want to do. Then we know that how many other people you have in the organization, that's not enough. So we try to put a framework. We try to create some big rules. These are the 10 things that we absolutely will not shy away from. And those things are guiding posts for people throughout the organization, so they can always look back to it to make sure that they're making the right choice or decision. And then of course, we have people spread throughout the organization who give that charge and spark at different areas. And still it's not enough. You still could get into a situation where you sort of find yourself being dragged back into the old ways. So it's a lot of vision, it's a lot of messaging. And then as you start doing things, you can start showing proof points, credibility, why it succeeded, and you start off showing examples of the behaviors that you want, so that you have a positive reinforcement for the larger group.
So does this also involve a lot of retraining for people?
It does involve a lot of retraining. There's formal retraining, where you take someone and saying you got to do something in particular skill set, you need to change that. But then there's also retraining on the fly because you are changing the way you work. So trying to get a person with an open mind and putting them in a new environment is a sort of retraining in itself. It may not be advertised like that, but that's happening all the time, and the speed of that is increasing a lot. So open mind, ability to learn and moving people around and moving things around is almost essential. And it's more important than just a formal training where every 2 years I say, I'm going to reskill you, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and you've sort of talked about this a little bit, but one more question on what are sort of some of the concrete steps that you've taken toward this and beyond the vision?
so what we've done is we've taken targeted areas where we can afford to lean more towards this journey, and we've tried to implement a greenfield or try to get a cloud, a SaaS, a mobile first, an omni-channel sort of a ecosystem. So we've bet on it in some areas because you don't want to go and touch all parts of your business and take a risk of migration. We've also created opportunities where we've changed the model of mission versus org. So not everyone reporting to a person is working on the project, it goes across. So we have matrixed organizations. It changes the culture, it creates more. And I have situations where people say, I want to work on what you're saying even though my organization is maybe working on something else, because they start gravitating towards the top 3-4 things for the organization, and that creates a lot of change in the culture as well. And finally, of course, from a product go-to-market, not a whole lot that I can talk about, we're making some bold bets from a business model perspective as well, making some changes. So we are trying all of these three things in different areas, and once we start getting success, we can take some of these best practices and put it in the larger organization. That's the plan, and those are the concrete steps we are taking to make sure that this is not all talk, right? We need to make sure we do the things we say.
Great. Sounds like you have your work cut out for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rajeev.
Bye.